DevOps. So there are two things which are happening in parallel. We have a crowd chat, which you have a link. I have provided you the link, as well as we have the Mentimeter Cloud Word Cloud Challenge, where you can put your ideas through, and these two artifacts will be part of a white paper which we are going to create after this session. So let's quickly get going. What I would do is I would initiate this discussion with some thought-provoking ideas around gamification of DevOps, and then we have William who's watching the chat, so he would be able to include the perspectives from the crowd chat as well. So this picture which you see on the presentation is created by all of us. Basically, this is the word cloud which we have got. Already 17 people have replied to the word cloud, and if we curate this word cloud, we see a lot of fun activities in this list, which is gamification apps, introducing rewards, competing challenges, mini games. So let's explore what is in it for us. Ways to connect. Again, this is the information we have. So we have the meetup group. If you are eager and curious to join us there and see how we can create new knowledge, we together do it through these kind of events. We also are hosting the DevOps Summit in November 8th and 9th. That's happening virtually. So we all are kind of already part of it through this monthly challenge. And we also have a LinkedIn profile if you are curious to know what other games we have. Getting us started, mindset shift through gamification. And here what we are talking about is not the trivial elements of gamification. When we think about gamifying a non-game gaming context, we often think about like leadership boards or scorecards or badges or avatars. Probably that's something which is trivial in nature. It's the first step. We kind of trying to progress towards another kind of maturity where we can solve serious business problems. We can ideate and come together to create new knowledge, and that is the purpose of this event. How should we do that? And some of us have already gone through this kind of identity crisis in our careers, where we were challenged by the old ways, and we were kind of stuck in that. So the fear and the fear of unlearning the old ways, we have, I think most of us have gone through in some way or the other. So we'll have to compel people to make that desirable shift towards new knowledge, and that is what we are trying to do through gamification. We also want that our learnings should be empowering and motivating collective action. And how should we progress towards that? Measuring behaviors, not results, as the first step in the process. So what we see as five elements of games, which we have done a lot of gamification challenges with a lot of people around the globe, and we see that of course value proposition, business outcomes is one of the important aspects of gamifying these new concepts which are in transition, but also game ideation, like what works for different sets of persona types. It's extremely challenging when we are designing a game. Game validation, like after we do the game, how do we validate the results? And we are very keen in looking forward and seeing how we can converge gamification and applied data science. So let's see if we can come out of this discussion today with some tangible inputs. Again, I have listed some of the games which we have tried through our gamification challenges, like anti-fragility game days. I think some of you or most of us are already part of those in one way or the other. I'm looking for more opportunities and thought process around how we can continuously optimize toil by introducing like performance scorecards or progress bars. And if somebody has tried those games, I would like that this discussion to be steered in that direction. I also want that this crowd should generate some ideas around data-driven products and how gamification can help us in building those data-driven products. And lastly, 50% of the organizations are still struggling with DevOps culture, according to the DevOps Institute survey. So how gamification can help for team crossovers, how to build a cross-functional self-organizing culture in like large enterprises would be an interesting area to explore as well. I'll not take a lot of time. I just wanted to set the perspective for this discussion. Lastly, the last point, convergence of gamification with applied data science. It's an important topic because what we have seen is that we are moving towards, creating new knowledge through crowdsourcing or hyper personalization of games, and enhancing our gamification toolkit to ideate and come together to remove the limiting factors in big, small, and large enterprises. So how we can use the knowledge which we will create through these gamification challenges and produce some kind of results where we can predict what works for individuals, how we can improve engagements in crowdsourcing events, and how can we incentivize people to actually look forward for these kind of crowdsourcing initiatives. Hyper personalization, how should we build game content which is for specific group persona types, right? And what are the user characteristics which we should look for in order to kind of curate that result and go towards hyper personalization. These are kind of some new ideas I'm bringing on the table. So let's get this going. I would like to reflect, first of all, from William. What do you see on the crowd chat? You are on mute, William.
Hi, Garima. So yeah, the crowd chat's been very active, especially with Suresh. He is in a different time zone and has added a few points. So how about if we just start at his first point and work our way through those, and anything else that comes up in the meantime, we can just throw in there and add in too. How does that sound?
Excellent. So I think we should start this crowd chat with the perspective of what do you refer to as gamification? And I would like to point this towards Mahfuzar. How do you think about gamification? Have you experienced any kind of gamification in your day-to-day work environment?
Hey, Garima. So yes, with the gamification, I guess we learn, adapt, and we adjust. And gamification that definitely it brings a different perspective in how we do things. And it's for me, it's all learning is a lot of gamification, and all this gamification adds value. So, for example, I guess we 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 do one of the easy one, the speedboat. And I don't know, those of you that play the speedboat game, you definitely see that how you're adding value, you know, being how fast you can go, or and what kind of value you're adding going fast. So fast doesn't mean that it's good. So again, I would just add that gamification always add the real life learning.
Right, right. And William, do you see any other specifics which is mentioned in the crowd chat which you would like to reflect here? You are on mute.
Okay, there we go. I thought I had the space bar held down, and that would take me off mute. I tried that once, it didn't work. I guess I'll just go with the clicking on the microphone thing again. Okay, yeah, what do you refer to as gamification? Well, Suresh thinks it's a simplistic way to get everyone involved and engaged, have some competition, make learning fun, and have an opportunity to experiment and learn as a fail-safe in a fail-safe environment. And it brings improvements towards ABC, which he calls attitude, behavior, and culture. So I tend to agree it's a simplistic way, but it has its tricks because it has to be aligned with your goals. If you have gamification which is not aligned, it's you're going to lose motivation, you're going to waste time, and you won't achieve your goals.
Yes, that's excellent points, William. And that leads us to the second question. What are the first three steps towards gamification of DevOps practices? I would like to reflect it through Sriram. Uh, have you had an opportunity to participate in any kind of gamification challenges at your work environment? And could you reflect on what will be the first three steps towards gamification of DevOps practices specifically?
Yeah, definitely, Raima. Yes, we do at least for some of the projects that we do in our organization, we have introduced gamification, and it has been enough. We are also finding ways to how we can make it more relevant to the day-to-day work, right, and as well as make it scalable, right. So, and gamification works. What at least what I have seen is, what I have experienced is gamification works when people start looking into the DevOps practices, right? The effectiveness is slightly higher when you start adopting DevOps or Agile, because DevOps and Agile goes a bit of hand in hand as well in your day-to-day work and how you start building your products, right? And it starts with inculcating the mindset of product development, right? Every change that we do, every change that the team does is seen as an enhancement to a product, right? So when that kind of mindset is being introduced into the team, gamification definitely works, and it works the other way as well, right? When we start looking to gamification as an angle to the to the project teams, the teams on the ground, then the team members, we also see that the team members start looking into as developing as a product, right? That mindset is something that we at least I have seen as such a change, right? Of course, anything that we do has to be supported with data, right? One of the few things which I can share, I want to share with this forum is we have integrated with the gamification practice with our code quality, right? Any developer, the development teams who makes the changes goes to the code quality, right? A set of rules and all those things, and the team member who does with less number of code and with less issues in the code, with more quality, is ranked as number one, right? So the ranking changes for every code check-in that happens. So that is one of the gamification that we started with. This one somewhere it starts breaking the hierarchy as well, right? It doesn't when we get into the data part of it, it doesn't mean that people who are more experienced write better code, right? So that kind of hierarchy is now has started breaking down, and which is actually we see good amount of productivity increase in the team members, right? So that those are the things that I see where and especially when implementing the code quality part of it, where we gamified it, that is seen more. We have been able to achieve better in the as part of DevOps transformation. So that is one of the thing that I think I can share with this forum, which is definitely help, or at least from my experience.
This is excellent, Sriram, because I would like to explore a little bit more on how you would gamify, you know, development activities like, and ensuring code quality is one of the key criterias, as even Mahfuzir mentioned that the speedboat challenge, like going fast. But what you are achieving by going fast is also important, right? So it's kind of connected. I would like to kind of know more about that gamification challenge. So were there any kind of competition or scales or graphs or progress bars? What exactly was kind of the key areas which you introduced, and what were the kind of results which you got from that challenge or gamifying code quality?
Trust me, the results are amazing, right? And when we have the team as a smaller structure, right? When we break down the teams into what we say saw was, it's not, it doesn't work well when we have a 40 to 50 member developer teams or something, right? When you have the different agile squads, squad being 6 to 8 members, a bit of gamification and a kind of a competitive mindset bringing into on the team on the ground, that has really worked, right? To give a bit of insight to it, what we did was we built a API, right, which is a kind of wrapper to the code quality tool like SonarCube, right. So what it does is the SonarCube results are being fed into this particular API, which actually there's a inbuilt rule system that we know the API brings in. So that gives the ranking, right. The
Mm,
ranking is based upon definitely not based upon number of check-ins per day, right?
mhm.
So when it comes to number of check-ins, then the developer starts checking in every line of change, right? So that's how it passes the Sonar Cube rules, right? The Sonar Cube rules are being, for example, one of the thing what we realistically do is we just keep Sonar Cube as no as a checkbox, right? We don't most of the teams doesn't actually validate the rules that are being configured, whether it is relevant to the product or not, whether it is relevant to that particular team or not. Those kind of analysis are not being done. So what inherently what has happened is when we got to this gamification, people have started ranking, right? So the developers have started questioning why I'm ranked low versus why the other person is being ranked high, right? So then we start, okay, these are the rules that has sorted out. Whether those rules are being relevant to the system or not, then we started making the change that, okay, let's start identifying what rule is required for this particular product that makes the product more efficient, right? So these kind of gamifications, what is we have made the entire DevOps pipeline robust, at the same time the competitiveness, right? So based upon the code changes that are being done, your every story will have a weightage in Jira, right? So that is also being considered as part of of your high weightage story with good quality of code is definitely ranked above than the rest, right? So those kind of weightages are being worked upon, and it is not a overnight job, right? And it is not something that one size that fits all, right? So as part of the sprint meetings, these gamifications and improving this gamifying rules are also being discussed among the team members, so that the team can come up with their ideas, right? It is ultimately within, it has to be embraced within the team. It should not be a top-down approach or a bottom-up approach, right? It should be a linear, flat approach within the team when you come into gamification, right? So that is those are the cultural changes that we were able to get it when we started introducing it, and definitely the results are amazing. Yeah.
Excellent. I think you have given this talk a different perspective altogether, and I believe that some of these ideas which you have shared today, many companies would love to hear that what success rate you have achieved through the gamification challenges you're talking about. And of course, it also reflects a very good point which I was capturing when you were talking, that it's also the game ideation part. Like, how do you ideate that game to have the results which you would envision to have. Let's say if your outcome is to kind of have good quality code pushing downstream, that's something which you have one of the business outcomes or the
That's
objective.
correct. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
then what are the game guidelines? How do you create point systems, not only in the starting inception stages of the project, where you are kind of scoring the use cases, and this, you have the story points outlined, but also at the later stage when your cross functional teams are engaged in developing that, what kind of point system you have while you're testing, you're doing QA, you're you know also pushing the releases out. So that's a systematic approach towards gamification, and it will require a lot of ideation, guidelines, and also clarifying the rules, because sometimes what we also have observed when we do gamification, that there are certain elements of the games, if we do not look at, it can create demotivation, it can create negative effects, right, in team members. So we'll have to be very careful while ideating and curating the results, when we are validating the results of the games. So that's something which I would like to reflect from here. And I would like to ask any of our participants. I see James, Simon, and Devika. If you have
Okay.
any examples of any of the games you have tried, and what were your reflections or retrospective?
Hi, Garima. This is James here.
Yes.
I'm basically a black sheep in this whole crowd because I'm from sales and marketing. I would like to, indulge myself in terms of relearning and, get into some new ways of doing things. And that's why I'm participating. But yeah, I mean, when I look at, what gamification to DevOps is, it's something similarly what you would do in terms of team building activities to break silos between different functions so that we can work to a common goal of being more productive and driving results is what I'm seeing here. So excuse me, I'm, like I said, I'm the black sheep, but I'll continue to learn with you guys and then see how best we could contribute together.
Yes, and I think from your experience and expertise and background, I see that we can ask you some questions on how should we model incentives. Because when you come from a sales and business development background, you would be more proficient than all of us to see what kind of incentives can be modeled when we are gamifying such kind of complex transition from the old ways to the new ways. So what kind of incentives would work for what persona types is an interesting discussion to have. Of course, we will come to that topic a little later, but let's move forward in this chat. And I would like to see, William, if you have any inputs from the crowd chat which you want to reflect.
On this point about understanding objectives, we had some initially from Suresh. I think we've covered these pretty well, especially understanding objectives, learning the outcomes, and a fail-safe environment. I find that very important to encourage participation and experiential learning. So yeah, I think some good input there and very good input from our panel. Would you want to move on to the next point?
Yes, I would. And then what are the key components of the games to enable the mindset shift? And this is an excellent point where we should discuss. And I was actually reading through some of the material which was produced through researchers. And they actually talked about, moderating the negative effect of gamification. And I would like to have some reflections from this crowd chat here, that do you see the leadership boards which we are trying to create, or scoreboards which we are trying to create, does it work as incentives, or it has a moderate negative effect on people, where they're trying to unlearn old stuff and trying to transition into something new? I would like to direct this question to Mahfuzur. Have you seen, leadership boards kind of working in a negative way?
And before you start, Mahfuzur, sorry to interrupt, but I'd like to encourage our panel to also contribute to the crowd chat. We're having a very good discussion here, and I'd like to have this captured on the crowd chat. So please add your ideas there. It doesn't have to be about the current topic. Cruise through the topics and add your input wherever it seems like you have something new and innovative, interesting to say. Okay, please.
Thank you, William. So Garima, on this one, this is very interesting, that how the mindset is shifting from the silos. IT used to be in silos, right? In my organization, IT is owned by business. So again, if you're a product owner, you should be able to know end to end. So those are the mind shifts that I see. Well, again, uh, in my previous role or previous to previous ones, I would say that if you're a consultant, you're thinking differently, right? You're bringing that consultant mindset, right? However, with this mindset, you're thinking the business perspective, how you can add value to the business. So when you enable those product owner, product management mindset, I believe you're solving the bigger problem, and the market is shifting. The problem that is solved yesterday may not be valid today or tomorrow. So again, it's a continuous learn, relearn, and relearn. So again, to me, it's a huge winner for us to in that life cycle.
Yeah, excellent point. I think Mahfuzar, I would like to capture that point on the crowd chat itself, that the problems of the past which you're solving might not be the problems you would be solving today and tomorrow. And I think this is a reflection of what we most of us who have started their careers in like 1990s and early 2000s, that we are kind of we have struggled our way through the productivity challenges which were given to us, like, be more cost efficient, be more operationally efficient. And probably the problems we had were not that diverse in nature. What we have starting to see in like last 5 years, that there's all sort of diverse emerging technologies which are supporting us, and also the lifestyle and the need of the consumer is changing as we speak. So we as IT and software professionals, we are challenged to rethink, relearn, unlearn the old ways. And of course, through Capital Carbon Consulting, and I've been engaged in crafting some of these gamification challenges. So what we did was, I'll share my experience. We have application development gamification challenge where we simulate applications for health tech, agri tech. We also simulated applications for, let's say, education, finance. And what we have done is we brought together like product managers, UX designers, development teams together on one like challenge, and steered them towards thinking that in 5 hours you need to kind of complete this challenge, and just think about the value radar of this application. And trust me, companies have come to us with positive inputs about this challenge, just because this kind of ideation, the cross-functional ideation is required. And gamification of such kind of abstract topics where you're trying to develop something big, but your teams, when they come together, they are not in consensus, right? Whether you do a story points or prioritization of the backlog, it doesn't help you that much as it helps you to simulate an immersive learning environment where people learn by doing, right? So I think we have seen that aspect, and more we are seeing that we'll also have to manage data driven strategies. And a lot of people are struggling to have that kind of view on what kind of data driven strategies we should have, how to strategize data for our organization. And these are like complex business questions which we have to solve. And this is like new scenarios. And gamification can actually help and support in this, because when you start ideating, you come up with simple solutions to complex problems. So that's what my experience goes. Anyone else has anything to share on this topic before we move forward?
If I may add your point, Gaima, and definitely yours, some of them are wonderful points. See, one thing which I definitely feel, and or based upon my experience that I can share is, this gamification should be relevant to the people on the ground, right? The moment it becomes like an imposed one, or it is actually being designed and developed by someone else and just enforced on the team, then it fails, it breaks down, right? There's it is not going to move forward at all. Definitely, yes. Gamification has to come within the team members who are working on right for the particular product, developing the product, and it has to be built and followed by them, right? So I think that would definitely help in building the kind of culture that the organization as a whole aspires to, right? And as you rightly said, right, the today's challenges are definitely different from what it has been earlier, right? People who have started in the early 2000s or late 90s, the way they learned how to code and all those things are different from what the people today learn and all the things. And definitely the speed and scale is definitely bigger than how it was earlier, right? The speed and scale at which we deliver technology today is expected, to at least, to increase in next few years to come, right? This one. So, bringing in or introducing the kind of gamification, as you rightly said, it helps in solving complex problem in a simpler way or in a very different way, right? You don't still stick on to the traditional approach of having a board meeting to solve the problem. It's not going to happen, right? The problems are going to be solved on a Slack channel or on a coffee table. That's how things are going to shape up. And definitely the kind of gamification brings in the mindset to solve complex problem in a simpler way.
Yeah, excellent. And I actually, it gives me a different perspective around, gamification when you say that it has to be designed and modeled by the team, for the team, and from the team, right? So it's really an interesting point. And Sriram, if you want to put this on the crowd chart, that would be great, because it will help us craft the white paper in a way
Sure,
which
sure,
will capture this point.
sure.
And it leads us
A
to,
comment there or a question maybe for Shriram before we move on.
yes.
Gamification, it means a lot of things to a lot of different people. And one point I mentioned earlier was it has to align with your goals in order to be successful. But to bring gamification into a corporation or government department or any business area, isn't it not a learning experience to bring in gamification? You can't bring in super complex games which may or may not match up with your business goals and expect them to work the first time. I think you have to start small with something simple.
Yeah.
Um, get people to realize some early successes with gamification, such as, oh, I talked to my friend in the other department who I'd never talked to before, but he actually had something interesting to say, and we figured out how to solve a problem. So this gamification, it had a positive, benefit right away. Start with small steps and move up. And that, I think that could include what you mentioned, Surem, the development of the game. So maybe if you bring in a simple game, there are many off-the-shelf games that you can just, download, use on the internet directly, and they will provide some very quick value. But then to move on to the more complex issues, solving your business problems, I find that's a really good idea that you could work together as a team to design the game and then take part in it.
Exactly, that's correct. Well, and adding to that, right? I just forgot to add one more point. When we talk about the side effects of it, right? If that creates a bit of disturbance with the team, my view is definitely in the initial stage it will be there, because we are breaking down the traditional mindset, right? We are questioning the traditional mindset, or we are questioning the status quo, right? How the teams have been traditionally working. When you question that, or when you're breaking down that, there is going to be a bit of a disturbance, and that's why the team culture brings comes into the picture, where the team come out of it, right? Ensures that those disturbance doesn't create any side effects to the team, or it disrupts the productivity of the team, right? So that's why the resiliency of the team also comes into picture, right? That team building, it is just going to maybe the disturbance could be a short term, right? It could be for a sprint or for a couple of sprints. But after that, things will start aligning better, and that will only improve the productivity of the team from there, right? So that disturbance, organizations and the management should be ready to face it, right? And that is where the experience of the management also comes into picture, where they help the team to come out of it, and then from there on, so starting to. So, long story short, gamification mindset should be induced across all the layers, right? It's not only for the people who just do the code development, or for this, right from the management, right from the people who are the product owners. Everybody has to induce it, and every role has its own gamification process, right? A QA resource gamification could be different from a developer, which could be different from a product owner. So it is the duty of the team, or no responsibility of the team, to ensure that it is more inclusive, and that is what will improve the productivity of the team.
Right, Sriram, you mentioned a lot of good points. If you can actually add it to the crowd chat, that would increase the reach of the
Sure.
crowd chat. That's amazing that you are actually bringing all these points together. That, when there is real change, there is real resistance, right? And that we will see when we are starting our, to change the way people work, putting together these gamification challenges. Maybe in the initial phases, you might see some resistance from the people, right? But you'll have to curate that resistance in a way that you understand whether this resistance is because of the gamification challenge itself, the content, or the incentives, or is it because people are having fear to unlearn and to come out of their comfort zone. So this is excellent, Sriram, that you have brought up this point. Definitely it will have some kind of space in the white paper where we'll address this issue. Now I think anyone wants to say anything before we move forward? Okay, so then we come to modeling incentives. And what I've seen is that even if we talk about gamification, people think that trivial ways to incentivize people will help you support the gamification. And I've seen that in big enterprises, what people are doing is of course, they're creating leadership boards, and then based on the leadership board, you can get a badge, or you can get a coupon, or all those kind of things. But are these the real incentives? Do you think that this will be the motivating factor for people to come together and gamify and unlearn, or is this something else? And I actually direct this question to James now, because I think he comes from the right kind of background, where we have a lot of sales incentives and business development incentives. How does that work? And do you think that similar incentives can be modeled into gamification for DevOps?
So yeah, thanks for bringing this up. Yeah, I mean, eventually, and it's also history has proved that cash is always king, and rewarding people, giving them cash is motivating. But over the years now, things have changed, and people look at experience-based rewards now, and it's about how do you reward them in terms of sending them on a holiday with their family, or taking them out for an experience-based evening with their family, putting few families together on an experience-based trip together. I mean, this doesn't have to be very expensive ones. That can be within the city, but more in terms of based on an experience. It could be into an entertainment park or into a movie. So I think those sort of rewards also help to break the silos in terms of social binding together. So building reward schemes which break the social barrier outside the office hours is also useful. Giving experience-based rewards is what I would say. When we do our sales incentive programs for the channel or the partners, we more and more try to imbibe experience-based rewards, because that helps them also to gel together when they meet outside office work to some extent. Yeah, so that's what my experience has been. Yeah.
This is actually really good, James, because while you were talking, I was typing on the other screen just because I wanted to capture the point about experience-based incentives or rewards. So I put that point on the crowd chat. I don't see your Twitter ID there, so I couldn't tag you. But this is really good, and we should brainstorm a little bit more on, how we can create experience-based rewards and incentives. Any ideas, Mahfuzir?
So I guess you got to go back to Maslow's hierarchy, right? So I think it's still valid, after all these experiments, and I would say that you start at the bottom. You start at the bottom, and then you move up. So again, I'm not sure if we can tag the Maslow's hierarchy, but definitely that's where I would start.
Yes, and I see Simon and Devika, they have been quiet for a while. Anything you want to add to this aspect? What do you see from the other side of the world? I see that you guys are based out of UK.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. Sorry, we're quite fresh to this group, and some of the language that you use to talk about games and gamifications is unfamiliar to me, even if a large part of what we do is making games like these ones. Forgive me as we kind of get used to how you're talking and get up to speed with you guys. I think where we are at the moment is we're discussing incentives and modeling the incentives. Well, something that I wanted to shoehorn in about that is most of our games don't have a point system at all. In fact, it's only the two variants of elevation and privilege that we sell, which is a threat modeling card game, has a point system. And that's actually widely regarded as not being particularly important. Points are normally given out sort of speaking, really. There's not strict enforcement of validity when a threat is proposed, for example. And I think what is important about the game, what people enjoy about the games that we sell, are the conversations. So all of them really are just structured ways of having conversations. So what people do get out of the threat modeling games is not points, but they get information that's actionable about their system, and they get to consider things that are manifest in the game. So there's a set of cards. Each card will have a potential cybersecurity threat written on it. So they get to have an environment in which they can consider each of those bits of content that are manifest in the game and apply them. So it's a chance to approach a problem in a structured way and get business outcomes. So a business outcome might be an estimate. It might be a place to look for a threat in the system, something to do to secure it, a mitigation. It might be they might have quantified some emotional content. So some of our stuff with the variants of health checks that we do, like the multi-team software delivery assessment that we've turned into a physical product with Matthew Skelton's game and Henrik Nyberg's squad health check. What they're really doing is helping you to consider a bunch of factors and quantify effectively your emotional reaction to that abstract idea. So for us, really, points and incentives don't turn up at all. So I suspect we're talking about very different kinds of game. But yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of understand because I was following conversations, and I kind of understand that when you go up the Maslow's chain, points, leadership boards, scorecards can have negative effect on how you perceive and how you contribute to these challenges, right? So persona types is really an important aspect of any kind of gamification challenge which we are putting together. So obviously, I've seen companies building up a travel map where they are not like point systems or leadership boards, but there's a challenge to reach somewhere, and then how quickly you reach there is the challenge. And that also creates some kind of competitive spirit without even kind of going into the point system, but it's inculcating and compelling people to just be engaged and contribute, right? So yeah, there are different persona types. We have to be careful about the maturity of the organization, as well as the types of games which we are building up with connection to the value proposition and the business outcome we are looking forward for. So I completely kind of align with what you have said, Simon, there. But I would like to explore more about the health check part, which you actually connected with the emotional context. Can you elaborate a little bit more? Because I really want to understand that aspect of
Okay.
the gamification.
How can I? Okay, so let's consider a factor in the working environment, say fun. So the original software delivery, sorry, not software delivery, the original Spotify Squad Health Check asks people to consider whether their team has fun, and to give that green, amber, or red score, which then can be taken away and used in metrics. And there's a whole bunch of factors, and you can then quantify which of the factors are strong in your teams, so going across teams in your department, and which are weak. So, and then you focus management interventions on the weakest parts. That's the basic point. But let's go back down to fun. So I remember being in a team and we played Squad Health Check, and we all gave fun green, because we enjoyed our work. There was banter around the working environment. We all got on. We were engaged with what we were building. This is a computer programming environment, not much the DevOps side, more we were developers. So we were enjoying our work and we had fun. We all gave green. But someone who was relatively new to the team played red, and we had a conversation. So the game immediately transitioned from scoring to conversation right there and then. And we asked, why did you play red? Because we did the planning poker thing of it, focusing on what was different about the score that you provided. So we were reusing common gameplay from another game. And it turned out that they'd given red because we never went out for beer. So that allowed us all basically to say that we were happy. So the majority of the people in the group were saying we're happy with that, we're having enough fun, because that's how we feel about our environment that we're going into and working in. But for someone else, something was missing. They had a need for socializing together and drinking beer and going to restaurants or having lunch together, or they were open to various kinds of things, but they're very clear that their idea of fun was different from the majority's idea of fun, which was just banter around the table and engaging work. So that small signal opened up a conversation about what people meant by fun, and the action point that we took away was to book a team lunch.
Yeah, this is excellent information, Simon. And if you have any pointers which you can pass it on to us for the white paper, it would be excellent. I don't see your ID on the crowd chat, so I couldn't tag you. I have captured a few points which you have mentioned, as just to kind of ensure that once we are writing the white paper, we have that content. So if you would love to pass on some of these like games which you're kind of trying or tried, it would be excellent for us to include it in the white paper artifact.
I'll find a place to put that in the crowd chat, and I'll put some notes in.
Yeah.
Just a quick comment there, Simon. I find your point, practical experience, it lines up pretty well with Sriram's comment about rewards, where money is king, but maybe some people will find more value in a group outing, a family entertainment, something which has some monetary value perhaps, but it has other intrinsic values which may be more important for them at the time. So I find this goes to the point of understanding people's motivations and what type of rewards would work best for them. It may be money, it may be a certain combination of other things as well, which is more effective, maybe even less expensive.
I should clarify, the team lunch wasn't offered as an incentive. It was an action point that arose from a conversation. So the only incentive in the game really was to have meaningful conversations and share our feelings. So it was simply, we could have been talking about any of the other factors like the release process or whether our code has good quality. There's 11 different factors in the game to do with the work of computer programmers. So fun was one of the things that was being judged. It wasn't offered as an incentive in the gameplay. There was no incentive in the gameplay.
It is, however, a direct outcome of the gameplay, and
yeah, it was.
In that sense, I see it as a reward, and so I find that in different situations, different people are happy with different rewards depending on what their motivation is, what their background is, what their momentary needs are. If you're hungry, food might be the best reward. If you can't pay your rent, money is the best reward. If your family is thinking you're spending too much time at work, then maybe a family outing to Disneyland or something is the best reward at that time. But these things change over time for individuals and for teams and corporations. So going back and checking, touching base, I think is an important part of the gamification so that it does line up with your individual, team, and corporate goals.
Yeah, and this leads us to like the concluding remarks for this whole, uh, event which we are doing. I do believe that, the content, the context, and the user characteristics who are participating in that game is extremely important. And hyper personalization of gamification, if we can achieve it in a best manner, would result into something really good. And I think machine learning, data science can provide us that capability. We are kind of launching a game in March, where we want like-minded people to come together to see if this whole game which we have created, the data-driven strategy for launching a feature in an app. And this is the game which we are developing right now. So we will publish the dates for that game. If you're interested to kind of contribute to see how we can incentivize and model this game in a better way for different persona types, that would be something interesting which we would look forward. And having said that, the last question which we have on the table: define your North Star for gamification of DevOps. And I do a roundtable now, starting from Sriram. How do you see the North Star? If would there be a possibility to create a gamification framework for enterprises where gamification becomes some kind of a tool and technique to onboard to the cultural shift which DevOps kind of is looking for, I would say.
Definitely, Graham. I don't think there's any second thought to it, right? I'm at least what I feel is companies will start looking into gamification seriously, right, to bring more efficiency to their teams. Each it may not be standard across the industry, or it may not be standard within the organization as well. Each team, or my personal preferences, each team will have their own way of gamification, ultimately leading to the productivity, right? What works for team A may not work for team B, and so on, right? In terms of defining the North Star, I think I would slightly take a step back right. I may not start with bringing in a kind of incentivization, or don't enforce. That maybe that perhaps could be my thought process, right? It's not going to be an ISO standard or SOX compliance that's going to come in. It's a way of how do you solve the problems, how do you solve problems of your customers, right, and make it more interactive and make it more efficient, right. So that is how I would say it. Keep it simple, right, and spend some time on improving day to day. Right, the trends are going to change from week on week or month on month, or it could be right. Probably now it is a bit slow, but as time passes, it's going to be that is going to accelerate as well, right? So my session would be keep it simple within the team, make it work, make it more inclusive.
Excellent. I think this is really good tips, Sriram. Mahfuzar, do you want to say anything? How do you envision North Star for a big enterprise? If you are speaking, you're on mute. I think we'll have to come back to Mahfuzar. So let's see. We can actually come to you, William. Do you see anything on the crowd chat which you want to refer? Oh, you're on mute.
Nothing new on the crowd chat after Suresh's comment about North Star for gamification, including getting entire organization involved in a fun way to learn, share and experiment via gamification, understanding that culture change is the most important aspect for DevOps adoption. So this has always been a tricky point with DevOps is the culture factor. And also working in a remote environment effectively together.
Yes, and I think one of the points which I captured was simplification. It is easy to get down into complex things before the value is achieved. So I think we should focus on the value. We should simplify. We should make it easy for people to contribute and to engage. And at the end of the day, everybody has a key takeaway, right? So I would like to mention in this crowd chat, what we are doing is we will create a white paper, and every contributor who is there today would be tagged as one of the contributors to the white paper. If you would like your company to be tagged, just let us know through an email. We will do that as well. The idea behind this whole discussion is to improve the way we learn and improve how much support we have for unlearning for the communities. So people like us who have spent 20 years in IT, they might have some unlearning, learning, but there are low possibilities that we can have support from the communities. So I think that is where we have to come together, not only for the ground ups people, where you have DevOps engineers, SRE engineers, and all these new workforce people with new ideas. We obviously want to nurture those new ideas, but we also want to get some support for leadership. So if you, me, all of us want some support in unlearning, this is a platform where we can actually come together, brainstorm, get different context and perspectives. So I'm really thankful and grateful to all the people who could join us today. I'll be respectful for your time. So you will see in the upcoming weeks that we will create this artifact and we will tag you. We will send you an email where with the content, you will be the first receiver of the white paper, and it will be going through the social media as well. In case you are interested to showcase your games, or you have anything which is relevant for us to understand in North America, we are having the DevOps Summit, which is November 8th and 9th. There is the DevOps Summit link is on this page. So you can go and you can submit your options if you want to submit a talk or you want to gamify something. we are a welcoming community, and we would like to have you on board and learn from you. So that's one other possibility you have. And again, I'm really thankful that everybody could join today. Before we close, any other thing which we have to take into account?
I'd just like to mention the gamification meetup we had last week with Christopher Stone. He has developed quite a few interesting games in the agile context. He's making a lot of them available online for free for trial. And so post his link, I'll pass that on to you. He has an interesting YouTube channel. And I think no matter what your experience with gamification is, he'll give you some new ideas and show you how you can use it and how you can be successful and have fun with gamification in your environment. I've tried it out once or twice, and I see more potential and opportunity every time I try it. So check out Christopher Stone and other gamification options. If you find anything good, please share it with us as well.
Yes, exactly. And I'm glad that, William, you mentioned that. Christopher Stone was there in our meetup last week, and he showed us some interesting ways to do retrospective and other gamification challenges which he is creating. So really good content. I would also like to mention Suresh. Suresh is in Singapore. He's creating a lot of these gamification challenges, and he has a lot of experience in that domain. So if you would like to have contact with him, again, his credentials are there on the crowd chat. And Capital Carbon Consulting, we also do some gamification challenges right here in Canada, which is more steered towards app development, thinking around agile and DevOps, as well as lead time challenges. So we have created a few of them. So if you are willing to kind of look into that, that would be a possibility as well. With that, I would like to thank all the panelists. Thank you, and I wish you have a great weekend ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for joining.